The footprints were small, lighter than the lizard tracks beside them, half lost beneath the shifting grit. Girl, maybe 7. Her right foot dragged. Tired or scared. Probably both. My fingers brushed the indent, heart pounding so loud it drowned the morning wind. She'd been here less than an hour ago. The scent of sweat and panic still clung to the air like smoke. I stood slowly, eyes scanning the wind-worn canyon. Behind me, the settlers muttered, restless. Ahead, the cavalry rode. Colonel Vest said I had until sundown to bring her back before his men crossed the ridge and brought fire with them. But war doesn't wait for clocks. I wasn't hunting a child. I was chasing a fuse already lit. The canyon walls rose around me like clenched fists, holding in heat, and worse, sound. Every footfall echoed back twice. Every shout rolled like thunder. Hoofbeats whispered from the ridge behind. The cavalry was close. Too close. I moved low, fast, weaving through mesquite and brush like wind through reeds. My heart kept time with the land. Fast, urgent, but steady. I knew this place. Every bend, every nest of stone. Every path water carved long ago. The girl was smart. She followed shade. But whoever took her knew that too. Tracks overlap. One set heavy, dragging. A man. Maybe Kiowa. Maybe not. In this light, I couldn't be sure. I didn't care who he was. I cared where he was going, and how much time I had left. The spring whispered below the rock ledge. Just a trickle, but enough to lure the tired. I dropped to one knee, scanning the dust. Then, I saw it. A doll. Hand-stitched. Beaded eyes staring up from the dirt, like they'd watched something they shouldn't have. I knew that doll. I'd seen it clutched in her arms when she played near the mission. Emma, her name was. Blue dress, sharp laugh, always covered in dust. My chest tightened. No blood, no sign of struggle, yet. But the trail was growing cold. Wind had started shifting. The sun was climbing. Every second longer, her tracks blurred. I picked up the doll and tucked it into my vest. If I failed, this would be all they'd bury. And then, the war drums would follow. I froze in the shade. Breath caught in my throat, body still as stone. Ahead, through the dust haze, a rider crested the bend. Tall, wrapped in deer hide, rifle slung over one shoulder. He didn't see me. His horse moved slow, like he wasn't in a hurry. That meant confidence. He thought no one followed. Or worse, he thought no one dared. I watched until he vanished behind the ridge, heart thrumming like a war drum. The girl wasn't with him. Not on horseback anyway, which meant she was nearby. Too weak to walk far, or hidden like game. I touched the doll through my vest and started moving again. Faster now. The sun climbed higher. The shadows shrank. The window was closing. The buzzards always know. I spotted them circling above a crooked mesquite and ran, lungs scraping sand, every step a prayer. Beneath the tree, I found the boot. Child-sized, heel worn, rope beside it, frayed and broken. My fingers traced the fibers. She fought. Good. The ground nearby was torn up, drag marks etched deep. But there was no blood, no stillness, only sign of struggle and escape. My breath caught. She was free. Maybe running, maybe hiding, but alive. I turned in a slow circle, studying the land like it might whisper the truth. Tracks led east, into a narrow crevice where even coyotes feared to tread. I adjusted my holster and followed. I wasn't alone in this canyon, but I was the only one chasing hope. The canyon narrowed until even sound felt afraid. I squeezed through sideways, sandstone scraping my back, breath loud in my ears. Then I saw them. Faint prints, just 5 fingers in red dust, dragging down the rock face like someone slipped or reached out. Emma. Dut. Her hand. I touched the mark and felt the stone still warm. Close. So close. My heart stuttered. But as I stepped forward, a voice echoed ahead. Harsh male. Speaking a tongue I knew. Apache mixed with Spanish. Threatening. The kidnapper hadn't gone far. My pulse roared. I drew my revolver slowly, eyes adjusting to the dark. One wrong step, and she'd die. One shot too soon, and we'd both vanish in blood. But I couldn't wait. I was out of time. The chamber opened without warning. A basin of shade, and silent. And there he was. The man stood barefoot on the rock, wild-eyed, face smeared in clay, a rusted knife shaking in his hand. Emma knelt before him, tears cutting tracks through her dust-streaked cheeks. She didn't scream. She just looked at me. I raised my revolver, slow, steady, never blinking. The man shouted something, curses, maybe a warning. I didn't listen. I spoke calm, not for him, but for her. Told her to breathe, told her to close her eyes. She didn't. She watched me like I was the end of all things. The man twitched. Knife jerked up, and I fired. Once. It echoed forever. Then only dust moved. Her body shook like a leaf caught in hard rain. I wrapped my arms around her, careful of the bruises, careful of the silence. She didn't speak, just pressed her face into my shoulder. My shirt darkened with tears and dust. I could feel her heart pounding. Same rhythm as mine. I whispered her name, told her she was safe, lied a little. I didn't know what waited outside this canyon. Didn't know if the cavalry would listen when I came back with her. But I knew one thing. I'd found her. Alive. Breathing. What? That was more than I expected. My hands trembled as I wiped the blood from her forehead. Not hers. I hoped that meant something. We climbed out of the canyon slow, her arms around my neck, her breath warm against my ear. Each step fought me, pain flaring through my knees, the sting of sandstone cuts across my back. But I kept going, because I heard them before I saw them. The low thunder of cavalry hooves rolling over rock. When we crested the ridge, they were already there. A line of blue coats and brass buttons, rifles glinting, flags fluttering above horses that smelled of sweat and steel. Colonel Vess raised one hand. I didn't stop walking. I wanted them to see her, to see what almost happened. The girl didn't cry. She just stared at the men who almost burned a village for her. And for a second, none of them moved. The light turned gold as if trying to soften the edge of everything about to break. I stood between Emma and the line of mounted men. My body a wall of bone and breath. One hand rested on my revolver, not to threaten, but to remind them I wasn't afraid. Colonel Vess stared down from his horse, like a man waiting for an excuse. "Where's the war party?" he asked, voice sharp as broken flint. I said nothing. Just turned slightly so he could see the dirt-streaked child clinging to my leg. His face changed then, not softened, but cracked. A sliver of doubt. I said 2 words. "She's alive." He didn't give the signal. Not yet. But the rifles didn't lower either. The moment hung, breathless. One gust of wind, one twitch, and it would all fall apart. We sat in the grit, between stone and sky, between old scars and newer threats. The cavalry dismounted, tense but silent. The tribal elders arrived slow, their expressions carved from generations of loss. I sat cross-legged between them, dust coating my throat, words waiting like coiled snakes. I told them what happened. The abduction, the dead man in the canyon, the girl now safe. I told them the truth, every brittle piece of it. And when I finished, I looked at both sides and said the thing I feared most. If a single gun is raised after this, it won't be justice. It'll be revenge, and it'll never stop. No one moved. The sun dipped low. Then, Someone breathed, and the sound of rifles being re-shouldered echoed like salvation. Emma sat by the fire, small hands wrapped around a tin cup, eyes wide but no longer wild. She didn't speak much. Didn't need to. The flames danced in her pupils like memories trying to warm themselves. I watched her from the shadows beyond the circle. Not because I didn't care, but because I did too much. The elder spoke low nearby, cavalry already pulling back toward the hills. The peace held, for now, but I knew the balance was brittle. Like this canyon, beautiful, carved by time, but always one storm from falling in. I closed my eyes and let the heat of the fire touch me from afar. I hadn't saved her alone. The land had helped. The ancestors had whispered. I just listened. That had to be enough. At dawn, I returned to the place where names are remembered, and silence speaks louder than voices. The shrine stood quiet, built long before my feet touched this earth. Feathers woven into its branches, stones stacked with care. I lit sage and knelt low, breathing the smoke into my chest. I offered thanks, not for victory, but for survival. For the girl's breath, for the rifle that never fired, for the war that didn't come. Not yet. I spoke her name into the dust, then the name of the man I killed. One to honor, one to weigh. Balance, I whispered. Not peace. Peace is a dream. Balance is what we earn, minute by minute, day by day, blood by blood. We walked without speaking, her small feet padding behind mine in the soft dust. She stayed close, always 3 steps back, never more. I didn't turn around much. I didn't need to. I could hear her breathing, feel her presence like a shadow stitched to my own. The riverbed twisted ahead, empty now but etched with memory. This was the path home, and it felt different than when I'd chased it hours ago. Then, I was hunting fate. Now, I was walking through the silence it left behind. She slipped her hand into mine once. No words. Just warmth. Just weight. The kind you carry long after it's gone. She saw her mother before I did. Emma dropped my hand and ran. Full sprint, no hesitation. The woman collapsed to her knees, arms open, voice cracking on the child's name. They held each other like drowning souls pulled from a flood. I stayed back, near the split rail fence, hat in hand, dust still clinging to my boots. The mother looked up once, eyes full of gratitude and fear. She mouthed, "Thank you," but I just nodded. I wasn't the kind of man who belonged in the middle of that joy. I was the space that made it possible. That was enough. That had to be enough. I left before the second sun rose. Didn't wait for thanks, or stories, or promises from men who'd break them anyway. The canyon watched me go. Silent. Solemn. I rode slow, letting the horse choose its pace. The Rio Grande glinted far below, winding through the land like an old scar. Behind me, a girl learned to sleep again without screaming. Ahead, more trouble waited. Always did. But I had time now. Time bought with grit and blood and a bullet I'll never forget. The wind shifted, bringing the scent of rain from the south. I tipped my hat to it, let it pass through me. I wasn't chasing anything today. Not yet. I keep maps in my journal. Paths most men don't see. Trails carved by coyote and storm. I added this one, the canyon Emma hid in, marked by a cross and a date. A memory stitched in ink. And I tucked the doll into the leather binding, her tiny beads catching the moonlight. It doesn't belong to me. Nothing in this life really does. But some things deserve to be carried. I sat on the rock for a while, breathing the quiet, listening to the canyon breathe back. No hoofbeats, no drums, just the rhythm of a land older than war, and the whisper of a child's voice saying my name. Once, in a dream I'll never tell, I left the revolver behind. laid it flat on sun-warmed stone beside the cactus that bloomed late this season. Blood-red petals against thorns. I don't know if I'll need it again. I hope not, but hope's a fragile thing in these lands. I walked into the mesquite, no trail, no plan. Just the rhythm of sand beneath my boots and the weight of a girl's breath still fresh in my lungs. Somewhere out there, another line waits to be crossed. Another child, another canyon. But for now, I'm just a man walking.